District 1, Supervisor Alejo.
Linda Gonzalez, alternate, here.
District 2, Supervisor Church.
Alternate Leonie Gray.
District 3, Supervisor Lopez.
Alternate Priscilla Ramos.
District 4, Supervisor Askew.
Alternate Kiara Pani.
District 5, Supervisor Daniels. City of Carmel by the Sea.
Yes.
City of Delray Oaks.
Here.
City of Gonzales.
Here.
City of Greenfield.
Here.
City of King City. City of Marina.
Here.
City of Monterey. City of Pacific Grove.
Here.
City of Salinas.
Here. Sorry about that.
City of San City.
Here.
City of Seaside.
Here.
City of Soledad.
Here.
Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Eloise. The next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. The next item is public comments. Are there any public comments from the room here?
Yeah.
You go.
Items not.
Should we come up here?
Items not on. Yes. So these are for items not on the agenda.
Okay, so if they're on the agenda,
Yeah, you'll have time.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Sure. Next one. Any public comments online?
One hand raised. It's to your left on the tax.
Phone number ending in 2837. You have the floor. This is for items not on the agenda. Go ahead.
Looks like they're muted.
Phone number ending in 2837. Can you hear us?
Hi, alternates. This is Brian Rosen, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. With the environmental crisis and climate change, we need to start doing more on mass transit, more than just lip service. You know, when you go up to, say, Humboldt County or Del Norte County near Oregon, or even Sonoma County, there's tons of long-distance buses right along the coast. You can go right along the coast from, let's say, Arcata, Eureka, up to Crescent City, on to Brookings, Oregon, or, you know, there's tremendous bus service up here for longer distance routes. And yet we have a Big Sur bus that only runs, I don't even know if it's still running. It used to run just a few months a year. But why is it when we have so many more people than these more depopulated areas, we don't have a regular bus running between Monterey and San Luis Obispo? A good affordable bus like the one up here. If you're a Medicare card, you get a free ride because they got a grant. Are you trying to get grants for offering free rides to Medicare recipients? There's so much you can do. And also when you go, I want to talk about the area adjacent to Highway 1 near Fort Ord, where they want to put in the horrible busway that the public does not want. Will you please plant more trees so when one goes along the bike route? We need trees. We need trees on our public right-of-way to help with climate change, to get sound barriers so people on the recreation trail have a more pleasant experience. They don't have to hear all the freeway noise as much. They don't have to see the freeway as much. There's a lot of public right areas, like along Highway 1, where you could plant trees. So there's so much that needs to be done. It's hard. I couldn't even take my electric bicycle on the bus. And it would be wonderful if you would make it amenable, because electric bicycles are wonderful for.
All right. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Noting none, I'll close public comments and we'll move on to item number 3, which is the consent agenda. Anybody wish to pull an item from the consent agenda for discussion? Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, can I pull item 3.1.6?
And that's the Monterey branch line?
Yes.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, anybody online wishing to push, pull and consider agenda item? Seeing none. Let's hear 3.1.6 first. Do you want the staff to recap something or?
No, I just have a question on the agreement on the recitals. I just need clarification because it does state that on the recital B, just for clarification. So we are extending the lease for 4 more years. And it also says that upon completion of the initial lease that we would extend the lease for an additional 4 more years after this assumption of this lease. So it would be extended until 2028. So I just need clarification if that's accurate.
Do you want me to take that?
Sure, if you want to.
Thank you for the question. So this is an assignment assumption, meaning that we have a current lease agreement with one lessee, right?
Yeah.
And the original terms of the lease had a unilateral option for those extensions. And the prior lessee had already made a unilateral extension. And the reason that it's in the recitals is just so that staff can track that, yes, this happened. And it's very important when we do any lease documents that we're trying to capture all the things that have ever been done before. But everything you just articulated, the extension for 4 years to the date that you mentioned, and the option to extend for another 4 years is something that already existed within the lease. So we're not doing anything new. We're not giving them extra stuff. We are literally giving them the opportunity to step in the shoes of the current lessee as outlined in this item.
Okay, so my last question on that, because I know we do have part of what we adopted last year in terms of our land use or in terms of our policies for the policies that we have for our ground lease assignments. So there is a portion that talks about that every 5 years we would do the market rate kind of value assumptions. So we wouldn't be doing it on this one if we're just assuming the language from the last lease agreement. Correct?
I think that's a question for staff, but
That is correct. We have the current lease that this assumption would allow to transfer to the new owner of the business. We are in the process of doing that market rate evaluation for our properties, but we haven't started applying it to new leases yet.
So it wouldn't apply here.
Correct.
Thank you for the clarification. That's all my questions.
So thank you. So with that, does anybody wish to move consent?
I move, Chair.
Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. Maybe the second was Mr. Rob White. Can we have a roll call?
District 1, alternate Gonzalez.
Aye.
District 2, alternate Gray. Aye. District 3, alternate Ramos.
Yes.
District 4, alternate Connie.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
yes.
City of Delray Oaks.
Yes.
City of Gonzalez.
Yes.
City of Greenfield.
Yes.
City of King City. City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Yes.
City of San City.
Yes.
City of Seaside.
Yes.
City of Soledad.
Yes.
Chair, the motion passes.
Here, Louise. You want to make a quick announcement?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Shane Strong, Office of County Counsel. I am the agency's counsel. I don't have personal privileges on this body, but I just want to take a moment to introduce you to Miss Morgan Tade, who's an intern at our office. She is a law student at the University of Santa Clara. And she's going to be joining us for the summer, and she's going to be appearing at these TAMC meetings. Please make her feel as welcome as you make me feel, and go talk to her and give her some encouraging words. And I wanted her specific to come here because I hold you out as an example of a very well-functioning brownout body, and I'm very proud to be of service. I'm proud that she's here to join us here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Morgan. I was supposed to introduce her earlier, so my bad, but thank you. We'll move on to item number 4, which I think is quite anticipated here. The State Route 68 Adaptive Signal Project status. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Doug Bilsey. I'm the principal engineer at TAMC. And I also have with me 2 people online, Azadeh Hadori, which is from GHD, our sub-consultant, that's a third-party evaluator, and Nathan Earls, who is from MyoVision, who is the adaptive representative from the system, the adaptive system that we installed. Neither of them are in the state. One's not even in the country. So I'm speaking for them, but a lot of this work was done by them, and really appreciate the teamwork that's been going on, also with Caltrans too. So it's been a team effort. At the bottom, there's a lot of moving parts, and we've done a really good job to deliver a real exciting project. So I think everybody knows, Highway 68 has some problems. This is actually a picture of what happens when we actually drive. GHD drove the corridor with a laptop, I think it is, and it records it, and it shows, with the red is where cars stop going westbound. And so Salinas is to your right, the peninsula is to your left. So in the morning, they drove it and they validated that there's congestion out there. They took counts, and I think everyone knows there's recurring congestion. There's a 2-mile queue in the morning. It goes all the way back from San Benancio almost to Reservation Road. That means it's unreliable travel times. One day it's one thing, one day it's the next. It gets good, it gets bad in the afternoons. There's rear end collisions especially in the peak commutes, which indicates that there's traffic that slams back and unexpected collisions. So what do? We installed an adaptive system, which we're going to go into, and some people have questioned, well, why now? Why are you coming back with these results? We just implemented the adaptive operations in May 4th, and the board, you've asked us to come back as soon as you could with results. So we collected data. We had to collect data before the school lets out in the summer. Because that's a typical, we call those typical conditions. So the fall and the spring is usually when you monitor traffic. You don't want a bunch of holidays coming in and out and students in or out. So that gave us a really short window. So if we installed it in May, and here we are by the end of May with a report. So obviously these are preliminary findings, and it's a work in progress. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to get you a little bit up to speed on signals. Otherwise, I think I would lose you, and I may still lose you. But let me just give you a very high level understanding of how traffic signals work. So a traffic signal goes around in a cycle, and everybody gets served in that cycle. You don't get to skip anybody. It's very rigid, and so you can't go back to one and jump around. So it doesn't have a lot of latitude. It has to follow the cycle. It really likes to work independently. They were really designed, and things haven't changed since these were developed. Almost, we're 80 years ago, 70 years ago. They're very simplistic. They weren't meant to interact. They like to be farther apart. So the closer you get signals together, and the more they have to work together as a system, the more challenging it is. The way I like to say it is, it shares time. So you're just basically sharing time. So you can't create time. So you can't really, the signal, no matter what system you put in, when we put in adaptive, you don't create time. So you don't really get more traffic through the corridor. You just can smooth out traffic depending on how you operate it. So there's basically 3 modes of operation that a signal can be in. And the free operation It's the shortest cycle. That cycle goes around as quickly as possible. And it distributes time equally. It says, you know what, one has twice as much traffic. I'm going to give it more time. When you drive up to a signal and it instantly gives you a green if there's no one around, that's running in free. It's probably out by itself in nowhere land, and it works great that way. It doesn't anticipate traffic arrivals. So if you have a series of traffic signals working in free, you probably have to stop each time. And there's no schedule, so it constantly adjusts. It adapts. I mean, it's completely adaptable, but it doesn't allow very good coordination. So coordination is a fixed cycle, and it's like, heck, for we're going to do this no matter what, whether traffic's there or not. In the morning, it's pretty predictable that we're going to have a westbound traffic flow to the peninsula. So what the heck? Let's go and let's get a fixed cycle. Basically, we're going to take time off of the side street and make them hold up and delay them. And we're going to allow more time for the mainline traffic. And it's an inflexible schedule. So guess what? If there's no traffic like yesterday, or not yesterday, Monday on Memorial Day, doesn't matter. We're still going to put in that schedule, and you're still going to assume a bunch of traffic went westbound and they're going to get a green. And if you show up to a signal, and you're waiting for minutes and you say there's no one on the main line, why can't it go to the side street? It's probably in coordination. So where does that get us? That's why adaptive is a good tool to get the most out of your signal. And that is, okay, so it adjusts the cycle to balance these two competing goals. So you have a signal that wants to do one thing or the other. And it takes a look at it, and it approaches coordination in the peak periods, and it approaches free operations in the off-peak. So it's trying to find that balance, and it adjusts the schedule, that coordinated schedule, for seasonal changes, special events and incidences like Memorial Day. So the MyoVision is the system that got installed. TAMC gave Caltrans the funds to procure that, but it is a Caltrans project essentially. They installed it, they maintain it. We do not maintain signals. The MyoVision, they work with Caltrans, and they set up guardrails basically for that adaptive system. And then the adaptive system AI is used. It doesn't run the system, but AI is used to collect the data, keep it on the cloud, and analyze traffic. And then it adjusts the traffic patterns according to those guardrails. And then Caltrans, right now MyoVision and Caltrans are monitoring it, but eventually Caltrans will monitor the operations and adjust these guardrails as needed, make sure it's operating as intended. The thing to take away from this is not a set it and forget it system. I think a lot of people got a little overambitious about the abilities of adaptive. It is not AI running a system that you just go out and it runs it. It's a tool for the traffic operators at Caltrans to do a better job at finding a balance. So the adaptive system update, the MyoVision AI analytics were implemented in April, and the system went live at 9:40 on May 4th, 2026. And MyoVision is now working closely, Caltrans, especially for the first few months. So we have somebody there observing at MyoVision diligently. They're not going anywhere over the 5-year period, but the first few months is really important. And then once things settle, MyoVision is going to be doing a before and after analysis. And then we're going to take a look now at the project performance indicators. We could probably spend a year analyzing it, and I could probably spend a day teaching you about real time, travel time, queues, delays, speed, safety. But I think this board said specifically travel times is a key point. So that's what we kind of focused on. I drove it. GHD had a sub-consultant drive it. You all have been driving it. You only get one look at it while you're driving. So what's really important is that we rely on something that can constantly monitor the traffic data, which is MyoVision, and there's other tools. But first we had to make sure that those tools were accurate. So all this here is not really the results per se, but the important thing is that, and the table was a little bit adjusted. This is a little easier to follow. But what I wanted to show you is when we went out in the field, GHD and myself, when we went out in the field and drove it, we came up with results that were very close to what MyoVision did at about the same time. So that was really important because now we can take a step back, and instead of driving it every day, all weekend, on Memorial Day, I just look at the system and I can say what happened on Memorial Day, what happened last week, what happened the last month. So that's all this is, but you can see it's pretty close on all of these elements. So it's validated. Now, a little thing here, it's called travel time index, because when you travel at different times in the day, it's hard to compare it when you're traveling in one direction versus the other. So what this does is says basically how fast am I driving compared to the speed limit. So what I'm going to show you now is just kind of it's called a TTI, but it says, you know, how fast am I driving basically. So if I'm at 1, that's as good as you can get because you're driving the speed limit, you know, or the free flow speed. And then if you get it TTI 2, which you'll see here, that's twice as long to drive. Your travel time is doubled, so your speed is in half. So when you start looking at these results, when you see a 1, you say, hey, I'm driving fast. And the closer you get to 1, so the lower the number, the better. When you get to 2, you say, wow, I'm driving at half the speed of the speed limit. So with that being said, now we get into the charts and graphs. So I hope this doesn't confuse you too much, but the before is in purple and then the after is in orange. So when you see something high before lowering to orange, that means that adaptive has improved conditions. If it does the opposite, where you see, I'm going to see if you can see it here. Okay. Oops. Oh, what happened there? Sorry about that. Okay. Stay there. So you really can't see this. So let me walk up here. So before, and this is eastbound. So in the afternoon, so about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you can see that before the TTI was 2.6. So that means it was going, you know, almost a third of the speed limit, really slow. And then after we got down to 2.2, you know, almost twice as much as the speed limit. That's going eastbound in the afternoon, eastbound and then let's compare it over here. So then westbound in the afternoon, you can kind of see that before was actually a little better. So, and that's what we expect. It's kind of like you have to trade off. You're getting better flow in one direction and it comes at the expense of the flow in the opposite direction. So that's not unexpected. That's kind of how a coordination works. And then in the morning, westbound, this is where you have the traffic coming towards the peninsula. And you can see it barely changed. You know, it didn't move the needle very much. So I'm just going to call this a jump ball in the westbound in the worst direction. And then in the eastbound, it actually got improved. Hope everybody followed that. That's a lot of information in one slide. This one's showing you, this is just adaptive the first 3 weeks. So yeah, 3 weeks. That is 4 colors. So the first week is orange, then it adjusted to the green, and then adjusted to the blue. And you kind of see there's some anomalies, but in general, like here's a good example. It got better for the westbound in the morning. It's kind of figuring things out. It's having a hard time figuring out things in a couple places. So this is just adapting. Does everybody follow that? Does that make sense? Okay. Now the side street. Now this is, I tried to get 2 different colors, but I'm learning the system on the fly too. So I just learned the system a couple weeks ago, but MyoVision has been so good and helped us out on this to get the right graphs together. But the colors are what they are. And what you see here is light blue is before and dark blue is after. So this is the delay. This is kind of the opposite. The lower the delay, it's still good. So the lower, the better. So you'll see that on the side street on San Benicio in the morning before it's very lower delay, and then after it's high delay. So before, after, that just shows you the delay in the peak hour on these issues, the side street increased delay, kind of what was expected. That's the trade-off. So you kind of trading off with adaptive coordination. And I should say that I could go with a map, but right before we did adaptive, only 2 signals were in coordination on 68, and that's San Bernardino and Corral de Tierra. I'm thinking Lorelis grade was put in there for a while. The rest of them were running free, so you had a match. So you had a change in the 2. So adaptive just made sense. You know, this totally makes sense, but this is that trade-off that happens. So nothing surprising there. So that kind of highlights that delay, especially in the peak hours. So this is really important to know about that, though. You know, who's our primary customer? You know, when you talk about travel time, you're talking about the main line. So this was a graph again, hats off to MileVision. This came in last night and we put it in this morning. So Yannicka, thank you. So we just got this graph. There was a couple of them that came in, and you can kind of see the main line in blue is way dominant than orange. Now, I like to say you get about 90% of these people call in to complain, and you get about 1% of these people calling in to say thank you. Welcome to my world. That's what traffic engineering is about. And so at best, you get half the people calling, complaining that I'm an idiot, and the other people, you know, maybe one person will say Doug knows what he's doing. But I can just tell you where you live by where you call. So, but honestly, it is one of those things to realize. Maybe not this, but I think all of you have signals in your jurisdictions, and it really is that way. And if you just count phone calls, you realize nobody calls up to say I got a green this morning.
No.
So this is the real benefit of adaptive. And so we had to wait until the data came in. So this is really hot off the presses as of last night. Now, last Monday, before Memorial Day, you could see the cycle length. So the cycle length is how long it takes to go one cycle around. And you could see in the morning that on a typical day, you want a longer cycle length. And in the afternoon, you want a longer cycle length. But on Memorial Day, you could see Monday, it said, you know what, there's no traffic there. So I'm going to go with a really shorter cycle length and run snappier or free during the day. So that is the benefit of adaptive. That is the beauty of it. That's why this is a great tool. It's mostly that. And when you start looking at peak hour, not as much of a tool for pushing more traffic through the corridor, but it is getting the most out of the traffic signals. Okay, almost done. So that was the hard part. So the key takeaways, high level, adaptive is not a set it and forget it system. It's going to take an ongoing effort from Caltrans, and our partnership with them has been really good on this. Adaptive operations improve mainline travel times and increase side street delay. So remember, it's a trade-off. Adaptive strength is adjusting to changing travel patterns like Memorial Day. And now that school's out, everything got shifted too. So it makes these micro adjustments and some bigger adjustments when the events happen at Laguna Seca. You know, it to a certain limit, it can go in and jump in and do a better job on that. Caltrans can, you know, help that out a little bit. We're learning a little bit, but for the most part, this adaptive is really going to be good on the corridor. The AI data is valid. The MileVision, we came up with that conclusion, and we also have cloud data, the Waze. That travel time data is, if anybody's heard of Waze, they take that, and then we have this Compass data. So we validated that we don't have to go out and drive and be out there on the corner of the street, which is kind of a bummer because that's kind of where that's where I made my living there. Sitting at the corner watching traffic. So now I get to sit in the office and look at it. You know, we can all look at that. So the preliminary results continue the pilot project, supporting the pilot project. We think it's working as expected. It's good. MileVision will conduct a thorough before and after study once things settle down. And just remember, you can't create time. So with a traffic signal, you still have safety and queue instability and the rear end collisions that remain with any signal operation. So next steps, continue the pilot project, MileVision will do a before and after study. We're still evaluating roundabouts as a long-term solution that is identified with an EIR as our long-term solution, but we need to see if that's a good investment. So you got, let's just say, a fraction of the benefit for a fraction of the cost putting in adaptive. And now we have to see if the extra benefit that you get from a roundabout is going to be worth the extra cost. And it's a significant cost increase, so it's going to have to be a significant benefit. So we're going to do a roundabout and signal modeling. We're going to compare the two of them and come back in June, we expect to. And the new baseline is adaptive. I think we've come to the conclusion that, you know, we did something good with adaptive and raised the bar. With that new bar, we will reassess the roundabouts against that. So that is it. Again, hats off to our team led, you know, by Azadeh at GHD and Nathan at MileVision and Joseph, who couldn't make it. So, and Caltrans. Jacob at Caltrans has done a great job. So thanks to everybody as a part of this, and we're ready for questions.
Thank you, Doug. That was a detailed presentation. Appreciate it. Any questions? Let's start here.
Yeah. So great job breaking it down in a simplistic form that we can all understand. I appreciate that. From a traffic engineer's perspective, when does traffic volume play a role in all of this? One of the first slides you put up, and it's actually depicted here, is westbound in the morning at San Venancio Road. You see that big blob of traffic there. As we become more efficient, at what point are we just moving that blob of traffic down to Laurelis grade, for example? You know, so you also showed the side roads, you know, the main line gets an advantage with adaptive at the expense of the side roads. So are we just trading this off?
Yeah, the answer is with a signal, yes. You great summary. You want to come up here? Because that is basically it. So we can't address it because remember, we didn't create time. So there is, not to go too deep into it, but that cycling going around and around, the thing that I didn't want to go into and I won't, but you have a yellow and you have an all red. So no matter what, you have some loss of time. So you have inefficiency, loss of time, but you can't, it's about 10%. You can't, you doing the adaptive or anything doesn't do it. So what you do is you kind of stack up traffic at, because we're at saturation, we're at beyond capacity. So we're going to have a backup unless we increase the pipe size. And adaptive doesn't significantly increase the pipe size. I know you can argue it might increase it a little bit. So yeah, you're getting that same pipe size, you're pushing the traffic in and the side street delays a bit longer. So their travel time went up a little bit. So if you went from Laurelis to the peninsula, your travel time probably went up and the main line went down. I think that's what your
question is. So would it be your assessment that at a certain point, we're going to get diminishing returns on efficiency on 68?
With a signal system?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And it'll take a while for that to get there, but you can see it was kind of converging in that. And again, we could get a coordination system. I mean, it's not going to be a game changer. So it'll get back to about where it was, you know, maybe a little bit better going eastbound because San Venancio was kind of the log jam.
Mm-hmm.
But the point you made is when I went and drove it the first day and saw that it was going good, is that instead of a one long queue at San Venancio, I could see a bit of a queue at Corral de Tierra, a bit of a queue at Laurelis Gray. So the more you can push that traffic and distribute that queue to several signals,
Mm-hmm.
the better the work is being done. And it did a good job at that, if that explains.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was my next question, that it'll ultimately smooth it out then, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But it won't, it's not a game changer. You're just kind of stuck with the signal and it's fine. You know, and the thing is that those signals are so far apart. And I don't want to go too deep into it, but I'm sure people are wondering. That's kind of why we hadn't done it earlier, is that most of the time that coordination, those signals are too far apart. And even my vision is like, this is a challenge. And that's why it's taken a little bit of time to converge to, I think, because it's having a hard time figuring out that distance.
Got it. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Can I add to that? I just want to clarify that we are in the next step is comparing the adaptive signals to the roundabout alternative that we've developed with Caltrans. I want to be clear that neither of those will solve the congestion problem on Highway 68 because there's no new capacity. So we're talking about how to manage the congestion that we have. So that's the evaluation of the two. So we're not going to solve the problem with either one of the alternatives because we're not adding any additional capacity to the corridor, and we have excess cars versus the capacity.
All right, Mayor?
Thank you. I have a big question and a very little question. Following up on what Todd just said is my bigger question. If roundabouts are successful to the ability they have, or AI is successful to the ability it has, or in combination, things will get a little better. But then my question is, I want to sort of a reminder that in 10, 15, 20 years, they're going to be worse than they are before we got started, right? So in that with more traffic, things are going to get worse because we haven't increased capacity. So I guess my question is just to refresh that I'm on the right track here. If there are short-term improvements, there still are projected to be long-term higher congestion than we've seen in 2025. So in 2035 and 2045, it's going to be worse than 2025, even with what we're talking about.
Yes, and I won't go too far back, but I was at TMC when we did Fort Ord, and I was forecasting stuff 20 years ago. Well, here we are, So the question is, what can you do, and what makes sense? So when I did that forecast a long time ago, it used to be a half an hour, of congestion. I said it's going to be level of service F3. They said, what's that mean? 3 hours of congestion? Everybody goes, that's never going to happen. So that, we don't even have to study about that because that'll never happen. Well, here we are. We have about 3 hours. So I think what it is now is managing how long we're at saturation flow and how much we're spreading out that peak. So the roundabouts, let's see, what your question is, it's going to get worse. And I think for me, driving it all the time, I just see a lot of empty seats when I drive. That's what I'm looking at now. I'm like, gosh, we have enough capacity. We have enough cars driving. It's just that the cars have one person. And as long as we do that and we rely on that, we are never going to get out of this congestion problem.
I bring it up because it's a tough pill to swallow, but I think the public needs to know now that what we're doing doesn't mean that it's fixing it for the long run. The long run is going to be worse than now, but we're going to make it as best that we can. And I don't think the public probably thinks, oh, they're looking to fix it. They're going to reduce the traffic. We're not going to be mad. But I think they're going to be mad as soon as it gets worse again. And I just want to make sure that was true because it's been a while since I heard it. The little question I have is, can you go back to that in-field comparison to the Mayo comparison? Because your summary was that they're in sync. And maybe they are because there's small differences in time, but there's 2 to 3 differences. They're 2 to 3 times apart. They're very much disparate. If you look at them, 20 seconds versus 40 seconds is twice the difference. And that worries me, but you know more than I. And so you're probably thinking, see the lower left there, 48 seconds versus 20 seconds. You had it.
The green circle.
Not the table.
Yeah.
The infield comparison, that one.
That one.
So the lower right, 48 to 20, that's huge. And 12 to 42 in the lower left, that's huge. 2.06 to 3 minutes on the upper right, that's significant. Now the upper left seems pretty cool. So help me feel confident that these are congruent.
Yeah, that was a snapshot. And I think the better one to look at though, that was one day, and this is probably the better one to look at. But there were improvements, but it's trade-off. So when the one that you just looked at was just looking in the primary direction, and then you look at the other direction, there was some trade-offs. And this is a better assessment because instead of a snapshot of me driving on a specific day, this is what I would look at and they are good, you know, that's why you can't get down to one. One is like driving.
No, that's not my point. My point is not the efficiency. My point is the accuracy in the comparison. So that graph just shows mile-vision. There's no comparison. But go to the infield comparison. So
this is mile-vision before. Mile-vision was collecting data before it became adaptive.
I get it, but that's all mile-vision. Or go to the other slide. The other slide compares mile-vision to infield.
Right.
And the conclusion was, you see they're the same, so we can believe in the future that what mile-vision tells us is what's really going on, because we've calibrated it. But to me, that calibration we're looking at doesn't look consistent.
Yeah, this is a snapshot. So this is not like a good sample. It was just one day, one shot. We kind of showed that it could replicate that one shot, but I wouldn't hang my hat on. These are the results of what we got in improvements.
Okay, well, I'll end, I don't want to beat a dead horse. You just said that shows it can be replicated, but to me, it shows disparity. But you know more than I do, so.
You're looking at seconds over a 40, the travel time is 40 minutes. So when you talk about a 40-minute travel time in the AM peak, and you say one calculated a 4-minute savings and the other one calculated a 4-minute, 20-minute savings, if you look at it percentage wise, you say 4 minutes over 44 and 4.2 over 44, they're pretty darn close.
Okay, so the amount of time is so
That's
small.
how much savings was, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for
Sorry
the time.
about that.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Anybody else on this side?
I'll go. I wasn't going to say anything, but someone brought up four-door. We kept saying, it was said earlier that this is not a game changer, but this is the best we can do, right? This is what technology tells us the best we can do. And so for me, that is a game changer, that we are bringing the best and the best practices to those that travel that corridor. And so we can't expect that, no, there won't be any traffic or anything like that. But our job, my opinion is our job is to continue to bring the best practices to traffic within this county. And I think we're doing that. And then I'll end by saying, someone says it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Well, and then they said, well, I see it's a lot of open seats in those vehicles. Well, until we mandate that there's no open seats, until we widen the corridor, or till what I really want to say, until we tell people don't be working on the peninsula, right? And then until we say let's build some more housing on the peninsula, then yeah, of course, it's going to continue to be the way it is. And so I just want to put that on record, right? Just saying it's going to be worse. That's one thing, but how are we going to work to change it? Which I don't think we're going to, choose any of those three options, right? So the data is there, and I appreciate you bringing it, and I look forward to, whatever the few seconds that we gain. And I really want to say the thing that I did learn is, and I think we all know it, but you said it clearly, is we don't gain any time, right? It's a trade-off. And that's what I took away from this whole thing, which is Florida traffic east and west. That means the side roads are held up a little bit more. So thank you for that.
I think you brought up a point, and I want to make sure that I was clear. I think this gets the most out of the signal. It's not a game changer, but for signals, this is a game changer for the signals. And it opens up the door for Caltrans and other agencies to use this system on the signals. So a lot of places are going to be signalized for the foreseeable future. So thanks for pointing that out. It is a good tool, and I think it's going to be something that we could use in a lot of places.
No. Go ahead.
Yes, so thank you for the presentation, Doug, and the data. I hear about time savings, and from what I read in the packet, there's a 4-minute time saving on the 68 corridor to Monterey Peninsula. Just info that I believe I read in the packet. And but my question is, you mentioned that side streets will have longer waits, and my question is, what type of impacts will there be at Laguna Seca with no signalization there? for during events, during major events, as far as cars getting out, on 68? Have we looked at
Yeah,
that?
the one thing was, again, that the table you see here was a snapshot. That's all we had. So when I wrote this report, it was like, what, couple days, you know? So I had to, you know, this has been really pushed. So don't use so much this table. You know, call us up. We can give you better data. So that 4 minutes, don't put this table as anything more than 2 days that we drove the system. Laguna Seca not being signalized, what I see is at special events, the traffic will load up, let's say 218, Canyon Del Rey, and the adaptive system will say, wow, this is not a typical day. I need to go into more of a coordination mode than a free mode. I need to tell the other signals that they better be ready for the traffic coming at them. And it can instantly adjust, and that first wave of traffic can start seeing longer cycle lengths and get a flow to them. Since it's unsignalized, I think the whole thing with Laguna Seca is they try to de-emphasize the unsignalized intersection, and they try to use South Boundary Road. But there still is traffic using that intersection, and there's nothing you can do at a unsignalized intersection.
Right. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
That does, nothing you can do. Thank you.
Yes.
Excuse me, I just have a quick comment on this chart, for example. One of the things that I have trouble with processing this chart is I don't know how many cars are going in each direction versus AM and PM. So you have 4 and 420 and 206 and 3, like on the top.
Right.
But it's not clear to me the difference in like the number of cars that are experiencing those travel times, like on this chart.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
So
It's hard for me to evaluate which direction, like go back to the one that you were on before. So these are times, but how many people's lived experiences is this? So when you produce this next chart, for example, it might say, you know, 6,000 cars for an hour. So on westbound, the AM peak is more cars.
Yeah.
Right. So it would help me if the next time, you know, in addition to this sort of excellent analysis, if it said 6,000 cars per hour on the AM peak and 3,000 cars per hour on the PM peak, whatever those numbers are, and that would let me judge that would help me judge the sort of efficacy of this solution at both times of the day. Does that make sense?
It does. Just roughly 60-40 usually, almost, and it's kind of one of these strange things. There's that typically these are kind of, I've seen this so many through the years. 10% of your traffic happens in the peak hour. So 90% of the traffic isn't in, or 10% is in the AM, 10% is in the 80% isn't even in congestion. The traffic going this way, it is a good point, is about 60% in the main direction, 40% in the counter direction. And then there was a graph down below that said the side street's about 20% of the traffic, main line's 80. That's a lot of data, and I agree. I tried to simplify stuff. I didn't want to put in a lot of data, but we are cognizant of that. The signal's cognizant of that, and it says get that 60% in the one direction going. 10% of that peak hour traffic, that's important, and the side street is such a low number that they have to take it on the chin to get things moving on the main line. But that's a lot in one graph, so I'll try to figure that out the next time we look at all this.
Okay, thanks.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Osborne.
Doug, I just have a quick question too. I know they talked about that this corridor, obviously it's not going to, it's going to be difficult to increase the traffic flow because we have an increased capacity. But if you look at the corridor off to CSU and B, right? They did a lot of the changes to the roundabouts, and the traffic flow there goes quicker. Obviously it's bigger, it's wider. But that has increased a lot, improved a lot in terms of the traffic flow. 68 it's not as wide. But the roundabouts there, as you were mentioning, as opposed to the adaptive, the AI, even if you look at the roundabouts on 68, that wouldn't create more traffic flow because of the side streets and because you can't get to that traffic flow as the way that we see it now over at CSUMB and Marina in that area.
It's a teaser, so I don't want to go too deep into roundabouts, but signals share time and roundabouts share space. So I don't disagree with Todd saying it's not a solution, but the difference is no matter what, when you're doing a signal and you have to cycle around, 10% of your time is just lost. It's just thrown out the door. And you can't do anything about it because of a yellow and all red. A roundabout shares space. So anyone can come in at any time. You don't have a cycle. You can move that traffic. It spins around. And that's what happened in Imgen. They got rid of the signals. They put in the roundabouts and you do get a better flow. But you know, to the point, you know, the main line though is 2 lanes. So you're always going to be constrained with 2 lanes on 68, but your constraints are mostly in the intersection. So the difference between a roundabout and a signal, come back next month, you know, there's your feeder, but we're going to look at that and say, okay, how much better is a roundabout? Can it actually improve the flow? How much does it cost? Is it worth the cost?
There's still more analysis.
Yeah, more analysis to come. You haven't got done with it yet.
Thank you.
We don't have any more questions. I'll go to public comment before I ask more questions. Go ahead. Anybody online? Anybody from the room wishing to make a comment on this one? If not, we'll go online. Anybody online? Do you have Mr. Stump? You have the floor. Mr. Stump, if you can hear us, you have the floor.
It was difficult to unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. It was great to see the staff report state, and I quote, early results show improved travel times with AI adaptive, and that importantly, travel times results significantly improved between the first and second weeks of operation and appear to be improving more in the third week, end quote. My letter to the board listed multiple news articles that recognize the application of this exciting technology and even noted that it aligned with the governor's AI initiative. Doug's report is confirmation of the ability of AI adaptive to improve traffic flow even after just a couple of weeks, and it will continue to improve even more as it learns and gets adjusted for optimal operation. I noted in my letter how anyone can view performance in real time and how AI kept the peak AM corridor travel time increase to only 3 minutes this month and cleared out the merge congestion at Portola by 9 a.m. That is a major improvement over historical peak increases of 10 to 15 minutes or more, and is certainly much better than the marginal improvement that the roundabout simulation showed. So with this positive performance start and predicted improvement, what decisions can be considered? Is it time for the board to pause final design of phase 1 roundabouts with a current burn rate of 150 to 250,000 each month, which looks even more like it will be money wasted? When will the cost benefit analysis between AI adaptive and the roundabouts be done? And will the board reject the idea of combining AI adaptive with roundabouts as mentioned in Doug's report and my letter, which would diminish AI performance? Should the measured transit times point include or exclude the Portola merge, since that is not under AI control? I ask you to consider these important points and take appropriate action. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Anybody else online wishing to make a comment? I see some hands going up and down. Okay. Okay, maybe it is here. Barry Jones, do you still wish to make a comment? He's muted. Mr. Jones, you're muted. If you could unmute yourself. Okay, I'll close I'll close public comment then. Mr. Jones, we did and Mr. Stump, we did receive your letters, so thank you for sharing that. I did first of all, I wanted to thank you, Doug, as well as all the partners, MyoVision. Looks like we all Caltrans and there was one more, GHT. So we all like work towards a deadline, right? Like we had to complete it by end of May. So thank you for actually taking time to get to that point. I also recognize the fact that when I read this, to me, like 4 minutes is impressive. So it's a 10%. If you're putting 40 minutes into consideration, in traffic, it seems like ages, but so it's an impressive kind of like performance here. But I did want to at least call out to the board that these are all samples and time. These are also based on scenarios. So school won't be in session in the coming summer. How is that going to impact this? We may have events. How is that going to impact this? So it's a continuous process, as you had pointed out. So my question really was, what kind of benchmarks are we looking at to say this is it with respect to AI performance? Is that a time constraint, or is that like a measure that you look at to say this is the maximum that it can go?
That's a good question. So working backwards, the power of adaptive is to change to unexpected conditions, and it's really impossible to really like half a day run a signal on Memorial Day and see what it would have been like. So it's really going to be more anecdotal that like Monday just seemed to flow better, and that's where the true power of the adaptive is like how it does to special events, and you're just going to have to do that. Eventually, MyoVision will say it's settled on the peak hour, and it's adjusted on the peak hour and the off peak on a typical day, and then we can turn off the machine. You can turn off adaptive and run it for a week, the way it used to be, and we'll do a comparison. Right now, we did we had it turned off before it was turned on, and then we just let it go for 2 weeks, and we're comparing in a snapshot what it was before it went on in March to when it went on in May. And down the road, we'll probably get one on the same, concurrent week, so we know it's apples and more of an apples and apples.
And do you think that's when you say down the road, is it a year from now, end of year? Is there a timeline there?
It's in months, and we could either do it in the summer and say summer's almost there, or we would wait until the fall. That's more traditional, is to wait till the fall happens, school gets back in session, and then do the before and after in fall.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Okay. Let's see what's next. So we're done with the signals. We're on to giving away money, which should be a crowd favorite. So let's see, Mr. Hernandez, you have the floor.
Before I get started, just quick housekeeping. Everyone's doing a pretty good job, but since we're in a different room, the mics are in the ceiling. So everyone's doing a good job, but for a reminder too, when you speak to raise your voice and then keep side conversations at a whisper, because the mics do pick up quite a bit of volume. So, but in any rate, good morning, members of the board. Aaron Hernandez, Transportation Planner for the agency. Today, I am going to give you a presentation on our Senior Disabled Transportation Program, particularly the recommended action for this item in awarding funds for cycle 4 of the program, which will begin July 1st with our recommended recipients. So the Measure X Senior and Disabled Transportation Program is a program that, under the Measure X umbrella, focuses on funding transportation services for seniors and persons with disabilities. What started out as $15 million allocated for the 30-year period, now increased to 18.6 million as Measure X has received more revenues than estimated. We were able to index some funding for the senior and disabled program for this cycle. The program is solely focused on providing transportation or services to transportation as defined by the authorizing ballot. And this is focused on funding nonprofits or entities actually that partner with nonprofits, as you'll see in a little bit. But this is to help cover transportation gaps that our existing public transportation network can otherwise not provide. So for cycle 4, this is the first time in the series of the program where there's, instead of 1.5 billion, now it's 1.86 million funds available. Back in October, the board actually adopted the updated guidelines with this amount for the cycle 4 process. It covers the next 3 years, starting from fiscal year 26-27 up till fiscal year 28-29. During this process, so in the call out for proposals after the board released the program guidelines back in October, applicants had about a month and a half to apply up to December 18th of 2025. And in this cycle, we've received double the amount of applications. Unlike in past cycles, we've received a total of 10 complete applications. So it really just goes to show that the program has become more familiar in the nonprofit sector, and the need just and the competitiveness of the program just keeps ever so increasing. So when we received the proposals by the deadline, what the process goes is that there's a grant review committee that's formed. It's composed of TAMC staff, a member from the Measure X Citizens Oversight Committee, and a member from the Mobility Advisory Committee. And we evaluate these applications based on these criteria. So purpose and goals, does the proposal suit the purpose and goals of the overall senior disabled transportation program? What are the benefits to the program? How does it increase more transportation services for these individuals? The feasibility, what can it be executed with the funding that's presented? What are some barriers that need to be overcome in order to fully execute the program and such? Geographic equity, does it serve more of our underserved communities, such as in South County or North County, with more limited resources compared to Peninsula or parts of Salinas? And the cost effectiveness, is this a program that that is not spending a lot of funding, or that does not have a high cost per individual served or service unit in that case? So these are the proposals recommended for funding in the staff report. In attachment 1 of the staff report, you do have all 10 applicants listed by ranking order, and more details of what their services cover in a project summary. So ranked highest was IT in Monterey County. The award recommendation is for $1.1 million, and it is to provide 24/7, 7 days a week, armed, door-to-door transportation to help seniors and visually impaired adults to remain independent and active in Monterey County. And it would continue expansion of their North Line and Valley Line programs. And then second, we have the Alliance on Aging for $526,000 for their project called Senior Transportation Coordination. And what this program would do is it would provide transportation outreach and training to senior service providers and senior residents. It would ensure they would collaborate with ITN to do outreach for recruitment to the Valley Line and North Line. Their work would also focus on assisting seniors navigate MST's better bus network and service changes. And they would also coordinate field trips and with seniors on using the MST services, and they also have a expansive program on helping seniors and disabled individuals enroll on special transportation services. So not just MST and ITN, but also a whole list of other services that can provide trips to like medical appointments and such that are here available in Monterey County. And then we have third, the city of Greenfield. This is actually a new awardee. They actually asked for the smallest amount, only 50,000. And this is actually the first time that this program has received an application from a public entity. And as a requirement of that, we do ask that they partner, that they collaborate and make a partnership with a nonprofit. So in this case, the partnership is with ITN, and what the City of Greenfield plans intends to do with this funding is provide transportation vouchers to ITN's services. This one really struck out to the grant review committee because when they submitted their application, their need was significant in that when MSTs had major changes to the Greenfield area, where they removed the where they changed the on-call services to a fixed transportation services. There was a lot of concerns from senior residents who don't live in proximity to the fixed route services, saying that they can't, or that they will be unable to independently get to where they need to go. So this, in a sense, is a pilot project that the city of Greenfield is interested in pursuing with ITN. And then we have the Veterans Transition Center for $67,000. Their program rides. You would want to ask maybe if it'd be okay to change the name because it sounds so much MSD's rides program, but it's entirely different. Rides is to provide transportation to senior and disabled veterans that reside at VTC at the Veteran Transition Residence, with the purchase of a rear entry SUV. They've really expressed that they have their current fleet is not enough to provide transportation to the disabled senior veterans and residents, and they've had very limited access to reaching to Bay Area hospitals such as up in Stanford for their residents to meet those services, especially with quite a couple of them being on wheelchairs. Their focus of the ask would be a purchase of rear entry SUV. And then lastly, we have the Blind and Visually Impaired Center. Their project is travel skills training for visually impaired individuals and seniors with vision loss. So what they would provide is orientation and mobility training to seniors and individuals with vision loss. This would fund two orientation and mobility specialists that provide individualized or small group and in-home travel training. So they would actually go to the individual's home and actually teach them there without having to navigate the entire system necessarily. But they do have that option to help individuals navigate the system as well. So that is the recommended action there for these 5 proposals. With these 5, this would max out the $1.86 million funds. And I'd also like to know that because this cycle, this round of cycle has been extremely competitive, a lot of the applications have ranked high, and including our returning applicants, but because of the funding, we weren't, because of the limited amount of funds, we weren't able to provide funding to everyone. So this would leave out funding from past applicants such as Chris Memorial Pool and Partnership for Children. This was also discussed during the Measure X committee. So what this recommendation here is coming for the Measure X committee as well. So we have questions.
Thank you, Aaron. And before we start commenting, I just want to point out that on each one of you, there's a letter here from Partnership for Children. It was not included with the board packet, so it's on your desk. It should be with everyone. Just wanted to point that out. And I think it may be beneficial in this case to hear from public comment before we deliberate on the matter. So with that, I'll open up the floor for public comment. Anybody who wish to speak from the room here?
Hi, good morning. My name's Donna Smith, and I work in a lot of different capacities in Monterey County, but today I'm here as a board member for Partnership for Children. And I'm a newer board member, but I have a heart for this organization because they do support our vulnerable children and youth in Monterey County, throughout all of Monterey County, who have disabilities and life-threatening illnesses. And anybody who's ever had a child in this situation knows that there's a lot of doctor visits, and usually they're out of town. Oakland Children's, Stanford, UCSF. Long distances where these families need assistance, and sometimes years and years of treatments to save their children's lives. And I'm a little emotional because I was one of these parents 20 years ago, and we didn't have an organization like this that supported our families. So I'm here to ask you to consider funding Partnership for Children with some of the Measure X funds. I know they were cut this year, but it serves a vital role in our community for our disabled young children and their families. So I'd like you to reconsider that if you would, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the room wishing to go ahead?
Thank you. Hello, good morning. My name is Corey Gerlach, and I'm the president of the Partnership for Children's Board. And we really just found that the TAMC funding was a perfect fit for our small and mighty organization agency that deals with a very vulnerable population. And so we were disheartened to discover during the process that the goalpost shifted. And it seems like all the focus is on seniors only. And this population is just being put by the wayside and carved out. Where for the last two cycles, it's like 7,500 rides are going to be affected by us not having this funding. It's 2,500 rides a year in Monterey County alone that is served. So it's just a dramatic decrease in our ability to meet the needs of our community and the families that we serve. So like Donna, I'm just asking you to reconsider the funding and make sure that the process was fair and equitable for all of the 10 agencies that applied, because Partnership for Children went from being the top agency, top scoring, to all of a sudden we were number 6. So we don't know what happened to change the evaluation of the services that we provide, because again, we've been met or exceeded all the goals demanded as an agency getting funds from Measure X. So again, we were a little bit surprised to not be selected this year. So we're just here with a plea to reconsider and help us meet the needs of the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else from the room? If not, we'll take it online. Anybody online wishing to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Okay, so we do have the recommendation from the staff. We've heard public comment. Anybody wish to make any feedback? Go ahead.
I don't know much about this. I note the large amount going to ITN, probably deserving. I note that Partnership for Children has been a recipient in the past. And so I just want to ask staff, what complexity is it to adjust amounts now in the direction of Partnership for Peace? Is it upsetting the apple cart, or is it fairly simple? But you guys have probably gone through a pretty extensive process. So just want to hear some comments.
Yeah, so that was pretty much a debate that the grant review committee was having because of the 12 grant requests that were being asked from each applicant this time around. We see that the total grant request keeps increasing. And even for actually quite a number of these, the recommended awardees, their grant requests are actually, or the recommended award is actually slightly less than what they were initially asking. So we did, I think for each application they did, we had a conversation with them or asked the question like, would you still be able to operate your program if you received a reduced amount? And most of them said yes with just minor scale backs. But yeah, all of these applicants have to an extent some removed, with the exception of a City of Greenfield's request.
So I guess my question is, how complex is it to make adjustments on the fly at this level?
Well, it would basically, at this point, since what's recommended here is the full amount, that would mean that the other recommended awardees would have their funding cut. And it will probably start with the lower ranked applications.
Okay, thank you.
And before we proceed, just a quick question. I think I heard a comment saying the ranking was towards senior citizens more this time around. Is that true? Can you just share some insight into? So we have a committee. Committee is a diverse committee to kind of rank and stack these applications. What exactly changed between last year and this year, where somebody from last year did not even make the cut?
Yeah, so I was involved in both processes of the grant review committees, both last cycle and this cycle. This time around, it seemed like in the previous cycle, it was more lenient in terms of who would constitute as a senior and disabled individual. This time around, because of the competitiveness, the grant review committee wanted to make sure that the funding, the awardees being funded are pertinent to the title of the program, so senior and disabled individuals. So there was more strict conversation in terms of what this grant review committee had. But in terms of everything else, like the ranking, scoring criteria, none of that's changed. It's pretty much was evaluated throughout the whole process. We helped site visits to help the site visits that were held were to help the committee evaluate and get clarification on some questions that we had for the applicants. So that also assisted in the final ranking criteria for the grant committee.
Okay, and so what I gather is we're more, I would say, leaning towards how the policy was decided this year than last year, because obviously we have a more number of applications, more requests coming in. So we had to adhere to the policy more stringently compared to last year. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, let me just see what other comments are there for the board first. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I just have a question. I have a couple of questions. So some of the Measure X dollars, though, I mean, I want to respect obviously the committee because there's a process, right? In terms of the work that the committee does and they're selected for a reason. But also in terms of what the intent of the Measure X dollars are, and obviously it's seniors and persons with disabilities and veterans. But is there a percentage in terms of the distribution of the funding where there will be an equitable type of distribution based on, or a percentage or equitable percentage of how the funds will be distributed to each of those different categories that the Measure X funds were supposed to be allotted to? Because when you look at the funding that's to some of the organizations that are being funded, a lot of it is somewhat similar in terms of the services. And if I look at some of the services that are provided in terms of the rides and transportation, and if I look at, I mean, I can say, and maybe Carl's here and he can tell me it's incorrect, but for some of the voucher programs, or MST provides some of the support services for navigation to seniors. I know MST has a facility here in Salinas. They have some navigators. So is there any type of collaboration that's being done already with MST, with some of those existing services that already are offering this type of service to some of our seniors? You know, when the committee was looking at, you know, the adults that are being serviced through the ITN and some of the Valley lines or the extension, some of those seniors that were being serviced, some of the reports, some of the data, I mean, it's just kind of looking at the equity of it, the percentages, and how I know looking at the persons with disabilities, it is especially with children, that is a population that is not as adequately and equitably served within our county. So I just, for me, I just want to say it's something that for me would be important for us to be able to go back and look, what can we do?
Thank you for sharing that. Any other comments, questions?
I just had a follow-up.
Yes.
Given that it's senior and disabled funding, and Partnership for Children is disabled funding for children, and that there's a senior focus on the committee's, you know, a renewed or increased senior focus, it seems like going to 100% senior is more than a focus. It's, you know, it's kind of a one only. So I am in favor of continuing to fund Partnership for Children in the whole mix. I just don't know how complicated that is for staff and the committee.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with that to some extent, because I think this is the last minute kind of adjustment for us if we're making some changes here. I view this as something where we're addressing the vulnerable population, and that would mean children too. It's not just focused towards seniors only. So my view is that perhaps the policy that has dictated us to come to this point, maybe we should revisit that policy to see how we do not run into such situations in the future. But having said that, at this point in time, Todd, is there a way we can adjust any of this right now, or do you have any creative ways to see if Megadex funds can be used here?
Well, making changes right now are fairly difficult. Aaron outlined the process with the board adopting the policies, a subcommittee, including members of the Mobility Advisory Committee, which does bring in MST's point of view on all this, just to Mayor Velasquez's question. I think it's very hard to second guess the decisions that they made on the recommendations. Aaron pointed out the way he would do it, which is to defund some of the lowest ranked ones that were funded. But that's just making an arbitrary decision to swap funding between applicants. And I don't have a position on how to do that at this point. I haven't reviewed any of the applications. I don't know who you're impacting with that decision.
Okay.
So I don't have a good suggestion on how to do this today. Alternatively would be to kick it back to the Measure X Citizens Advisory Committee to reevaluate. These grants are supposed to start next fiscal year, so beginning July 1st. So those programs would be delayed, whatever time period it would take to reevaluate and bring back a new recommendation to the board if there was a change to the recommendation.
Got it.
Through the chair. You know, I'm one of those that's kind of hard to ask to change the policy in the middle of the street. And my understanding is it was just said that we asked them to stick closer to the so-called policy. And the committee came up with this. And so if the majority of the board is saying, well, you know, we're leaving out all disabled people, including children, then that's a policy change. And I think the board needs to have a policy change and not just arbitrarily say, send it back and give one group money as opposed to the other. And I think we're all open to supporting the youth, but how do you do it? And the people that's already been chosen, how do they feel if it just ends up being
Less.
well, less, and I was gonna say arbitrary, but I won't say arbitrary, because I know we're trying to solve and we're trying to give money to that group, right? But how do you do it after that committee made a decision? When the committee made the decision based on what they said we told them, which is how do you get closer to the policy and the intent? Now, after this, we can definitely change the intent and the policy to be, make sure we include everybody, but I just throw that out there. I'm not,
No, I think that makes sense. And ultimately, we're creating the policy. It's not just I know we're hearing it now, but this has been vetted through the process, through policy, through committees. So that's where I am, which is that unless there is a quick and easy way, which seems like there is not, to grant this, I would move with the recommended action and see what we want to do next. But I would also add in here that perhaps it's time for us to at least look at the policy to see if we're effectively serving all that we intend to serve through the Measure X dollars. So with that, anybody wishing to make a motion?
No, I just had a final question. So my understanding is this group was funded before?
Yes, Partnership for Children specifically, they were funded for cycle 2 and cycle 3.
Okay, and how much?
I believe in the current cycle, it's about relatively the same, like around 400,000 or so.
400,000.
I have one more question. Sorry. I have one more question.
Yes.
Sorry. I have one more question, and just in terms of the city of Greenfield, because it looks like ITN's moving to South County, but there's a voucher program where ITN's involved as well. So can you just clarify, is it a different service that ITN is going to be doing with the city of Greenfield differently than the first program that they're already getting 1.1 million and then the 50,000? So is it two separate? Are they doing two separate programs? Are they going to service two separate senior populations?
So basically that program with the city of Greenfield, with their funding, they would administer distributing vouchers. So that funding would cover vouchers to use ITN's existing value line service. Right now, ITN does not go down to Greenfield or does not cover Greenfield. So that would bring in, ITN would initiate the service there, and then the city of Greenfield would provide the vouchers to senior residents in Greenfield.
So the 1.1, just so I can clarify, because the 1.1 million then to ITN that's being funded, where they're saying they're going to continue expansion, because they say continue expansion, not new expansion to the Valley programs. Continue expansion to North Line and Valley program means that the Valley program is in the Greenfield program, not to the rest of the South County cities.
So Greenfield is one of them, and they do intend to expand like further into such as places like King City or even the more unincorporated areas. That's part of the ITN program.
Yes,
this was in response to the change to the circular. We had folks who were coming to the council meeting, in tears almost. I mean, not being able to get to doctor's appointments, to pick up prescriptions, all this kind of, they just were not going to be able to get service. And this was an alternative way for us to provide some service to very much in need at that.
okay. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I would.
Yes. Wait a second. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. One second. You said something I found a bit. So you spoke to the other agencies, and if they had to do with a little bit less, but it wouldn't jeopardize their programs.
Correct.
But I'm sensing $400,000 to a program like theirs. That strikes me as sticker shock. Were they prepared for that?
So one of the other things that we also discussed, which was part of kind of the evaluation of it too, as part of the site field visits, we met with their executive director for that site visit. If they had also, we had asked a question like, if your funding was cut, what would happen? And we received a response that operations would significantly scale back. One of the actually good outcomes from Measure X is that initially Partnership for Children, when they first applied back in cycle 2, they actually were contracting transportation providers, but now they have their own in-house. And when we ask if you had to decide, because the program basically is a 2-tier transportation program, so it's one tier is to provide direct transportation through their services to the Bay Area hospitals, and the second tier is to provide gas card subsidies. So so when we had to ask like, where would you scale back if your funding was reduced or cut? So, or where would you prefer that funding would be used if it was reduced? And the response we received that the gas card subsidy is more reliant on the Measure X funds, as they have matching funds as well too, for the direct transportation choices.
And I would just make a general comment. This is exactly the type of dilemma nobody wants, for sure. We don't want to pit good versus good, but I guess the question or comment, and to Todd's point, I'm not quite sure how to resolve this at this time, but I think we all know that once you pass a budget, they're still somewhat dynamic and when things drop in. So I would simply ask that there be a serious look taken moving forward into the next fiscal year, if it's the disposition of the committee and the board, that this program should be continued to be funded, that somehow that's taken a look at in terms of cash, where things drop in on a cash flow and a real time basis. Because I think everybody sitting around the table is going, boy, not the sort of dilemma we want to have to wrestle with. I understand the process is difficult to deal with right now, but it just seems this program's worth a second look.
I agree with that too. And maybe Todd, I think that can be a future discussion for the board, because it's not just Partnership for Children that we're not funding. There are other organizations here too. And so I think it needs a look, because we're, like you said, everything is good and we don't want to end up in a situation where we're not funding. So we need to be crystal clear on why we're not funding. Okay, with that, go ahead, Mr.
Thank you. Carl Shadorek, CEO for the Monterey Salinas Transit District. Just want to provide some clarity on South County on-demand services, which the MST on call was discontinued in favor of timed fixed route circulators that have been very popular in South County, with ridership doubling and tripling actually in the city of Greenfield on our services. However, those services, those riders tend to trend younger, more college students. And we have, through Measure Q, have a senior veterans and disabled taxi voucher service with local taxi cabs, which unfortunately we've been unsuccessful in getting a local taxi operator to provide this service in the South County cities. Within the past year, the city of King and the city of Greenfield have permitted a local taxi cab operator. However, that operator has not, despite our exhortations and attempting to incentivize them, have not been willing to get the minimum insurance requirements that would allow us to offer these vouchers in these cities for these very vulnerable residents. We are currently in negotiations with Uber to provide on-demand taxi-like services that we would make our vouchers available to, that we intend to kick off in the South County cities beginning July 1. Not announced it yet because we're not done with our negotiations with Uber. We don't have an agreement inked, but that is our intent, and to fund that through our existing Measure Q services. I just wanted to provide that information because that is something that has not been shared I'm not even certain. I think I've alluded to it in the MSD board meetings, but we don't have the agreement finalized. But given some of this discussion, I thought it would be pertinent. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else, any other comments or feedback? And I didn't hear any motion yet. Anybody wishing to make a motion?
I have a question.
Yes.
How close were the scores of the 10 agencies?
They were relatively close. It's out of 100 points possible. So most of them had scored at least 75 or higher.
So did a couple points difference make the difference between 50 or 100 or $200,000 and nothing?
I can't remember off the top of my head the exact differences between each of the applicants based on the out of the 100 score, but it was. I guess in short, it was pretty close.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I'm struggling with is that, and I'm reading up the packet again, is that if the scores, when you look at the chart, the total, when you look at the chart that's in the packet, the total grant requests, it seems like 100%, 100%, 100%, 50%, 50%, and then nothing. And so the thing that I'm sort of struggling with here is not being able to connect, how the committee decided which organizations, like what's the scoring difference between, I'll omit the city of Greenfield, like Alliance on Aging, they requested 536 and they got 526. And Partnership for Children requested 491 and got nothing. How close were those? Like, did it matter? If one reviewer in the room scored Partnership for Children lower, is that a $500,000 review? Is that possible for? And is it possible for that sort of mechanics to have played out back in the room?
Yeah, it is possible, and that's kind of like also where it's kind of the grant review committee was also struggling too because of how close they were. But then the process that also followed with the grant review committee too was that the intent was also to fund as much as possible the highest ranked applicants. So for those that ranked lower, after providing that question to the applicant itself, would they be able to operate in a scaled back or in a reduced fund amount? That's also kind of where I think, because the scores were so close together, the grant review committee just wanted to ensure that these programs are still getting as much funding as they requested, but still able to execute their program.
Just if I may, it's not like the way I looked at it was, Aaron, you had shared program purpose goals, program benefits, feasibility, geographic equity, cost effectiveness. Those were all had some associated with them to finally make up 100. And so effectively, unless somebody gave zeros, he or she could not have swayed the decision. So, but it seems like everything has a purpose, which has 25 points. They give 20, but I don't know how the points was skewed towards one versus the other. But I think it would have been an even distribution. That's my take.
Yeah, and
So
maybe
what are we doing then? Chair?
So I'm waiting on a motion to see if anybody wants to.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to make my last comment. So when we come back for the policies to revisit the policy, I know we'll move on, but just to revisit the policy, given what Carl just mentioned about potential with Measure Q, because there is other funding sources that we have also that are funding different services. that I think when we take into consideration for some of our seniors that are being funded as well, and also veterans and persons with disabilities, that we also take into consideration other funding sources that are also funding similar type of services when they're looking at the applications and what's being proposed to be funded. So we're not duplicating services, or we're not duplicating already what could be funded under another, another measure already, or another funding source.
Okay, I think that's a broader discussion, and we're now talking about funding sources and the policy on how this needs to be.
Well, I'm just saying for future, if we can please consider that into the policy discussion. I just don't want that to be left out.
Through the chair. I agree with all that, but we have to wait till you put it on the agenda to talk about. I think that's an excellent suggestion, but so I just say that to say to Mayor Velasquez is we won't forget about it because we'll be talking about it here. And everybody should bring those things up because that's a good idea, but how do you can't fix that now.
Yes.
I'd like to motion, preface, because Partnership for Children are for children, and because they were a recipient in good standing, I would recommend that we fund them at 50% of their request and adjust the top fund recipient or the top 2 fund recipients to accommodate that shift.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's go with the roll call.
District 1, alternate Gonzalez.
50 from each applicant.
Aye.
Can you wait a second? There's some clarification. Some clarification on the motion here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, if we take, what was the amount for Partnership for Children?
So Partnership for Children is $491,194.
Say that again more slowly.
Yes.
$491,194.
So the ranking that's been proposed was the applications received from each of those agencies minus a little bit because they wanted to fund the whole list of recommended programs. You want to fully fund Partnership for Children, taking 50% of Partnership for Children, so 445. So what's the 50%, Aaron?
It's, the number is $245,597.
Thank you. So do you want that to come 50-50 from the first and second applicant ranking? Okay, that's why I wanted clarification.
On the question, is there room for those, for that? The top one is getting how much? I don't have it in front of me. Okay, but okay, it seems like it's room.
Yeah.
Okay, now just
I'd
think.
like to speak. So in the motion.
Yes, go ahead.
One at a time.
So I appreciate your presence here today. And that it sounds like your organization is worth some grant, but I'm really uncomfortable with the ad hoc nature of this. And I think it is unfortunate that the other agencies, like if we're going to open this process up to sort of a reevaluation of how much money we're giving to 10 deserved agencies, it's unfortunate that, and I do not mean any disrespect to Partnership for Children, that we're going to give them $250,000 because they showed up today and the other agencies did not show up today. I just think that's the ad hoc nature of this and that sort of precedent setting nature of sort of what we're doing will not allow me to support the motion.
Yeah, and thank you. And I would say, since we're opening it up for discussion, I would also like to echo some of the same comments, which is that we need, if we're being equitable, we need to be equitable across the board. It cannot be for one organization only. Also, we're putting in some random numbers here, and I'm not comfortable with that random numbers. And we're also saying that we're going to pull in from only the top 2. Why only the top 2? So there are some questions here that I'm totally uncomfortable with. So I support the staff recommendation. I also support what Ms. Velasquez and others have said here, which is that we really need to look at this through and through from what measures are coming into place for funding, as well as how the policy needs to be written so that if it is competitive today, it's going to be uber competitive next year. So we just need to make sure we're prepared for the future. But I'll be voting no on this too. Let's go with our roll.
So yeah, great points across the board. Really, we have to show respect for the process and the committee that was there. I mean, we got good people that spent a lot of time taking a look at this and making a very tough decision. And I just think, as was mentioned before, they were given policy guidance and they followed that policy and guidance. And I just think we need to respect that.
Chair,
Yes.
I think that our job as board is policy, final decision. If our final decision isn't 100% consistent with a subcommittee, it's not disrespectful. It's our job to evaluate what they bring us and make the final. Otherwise, why are we here? In this case, why are we here for this issue? If we're just going to rubber stamp it, we don't really sit here for any purpose. We're here for a purpose. And if we find out that a good standing recipient that represents a constituency that's now left out of this process, we can question that to try to make it a little bit whole. And then as Mayor says, in the future, try to get that so we're not here in the same place next year. I would just be floored if I was part of an entity that was doing good work and was dropped out of the process because there was a focus on seniors that was 100% dropping out children. It just doesn't sit well. And I think when we look at the big picture, if something doesn't sit well, we have the ability to modify things. That's our purpose here. So yeah, a lot of work went into it. Yeah, there's a process. That's always the case, but we're still here. So we have a function, and that's to look at what's coming up and make some policy changes where we believe they're appropriate. If you don't believe they're appropriate, I respect that. But I think that this policy change at our level at this time would be appropriate because the two top recipients are earning so much more than the rest that it just seems like they'd be able to handle a 10% cut or a 15% cut, whereas this agency for children is taking a 100% cut down to zero. So I'm just trying to modify a little bit without upsetting the apple cart. I think it's reasonable.
Understood. Okay, any other discussion items here? If not, let's take a roll call vote, please.
I just want to respond to Councilmember Barron's point. I'm feeling that concern about is it random or not random, but arbitrary that we would make an adjustment responsive to the organization in the room. The counterpoint that I'm thinking through is that they were sixth. There were 5 awardees, and the question on the table is whether to, adjust the grants to include the 6th. And I heard Aaron say that the points were close. I'd love to hear a little more about that. And an open question is, would that be a logic that feels a little more reasoned than arbitrary? To say the question is, will we redistribute the grants a little bit to include the next in line?
Aaron, do you have the points for each? Is that something?
Yeah, I'll just respond. Thank you. I did, as you know, ask about the points. So obviously that was something I was thinking about as I was sort of going down the list. Without that, it's impossible to tell how bunched up everybody was and all that. But the part I'm having the most heartache with, in addition, over the points, is just the sort of the arbitrary nature of sort of what we're doing here. And I would, I might be on board if we were going to send it back for a 2-week review and see this again next month and have them sort of reevaluate the scoring system. If we can figure out how to do that here, which we may or may not be able to do. If we were going to, Todd's shaking his head, and that's completely fine. If we're not going to do that, there are two options that I would be okay with: sending it back or keeping it the same. I'm not okay, for the reasons I stated. It just sort of making making sort of this arbitrary decision. And to Bruce's point, to Director Delgado's point, I would note that taking half of a $526,000 grant and giving that to, someone else, that's, or taking a third of it, a quarter of it, $130,000, like that's a pretty big hit on that organization. And I'm not, it's a $580,000 project. It's a $536,000 grant. And so I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with just slicing that grant by $136,000. So again, no disrespect to Partner for Children, but those are my thoughts.
I would say the reason why some grants are higher than the others is because of the extensive coverage that they provide. So it's a direct proportion to what that is. It doesn't indicate that we've just given them a lot of money and we need to take something away. So it will impact services nonetheless. So I think anyway, I think we've had enough of discussion. Let's go for a roll call vote.
District 1, alternate Gonzalez.
Abstain.
District 2, alternate Gray.
No.
District 3, alternate Ramos.
No.
District 4, alternate Penny.
Yes.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
No.
City of Delray Oaks.
No.
City of Gonzalez.
No.
City of Greenfield.
No.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Pacific Grove.
No.
City of Salinas.
Yes.
City of Sand City.
No.
City of Seaside.
No.
City of Soledad.
Yes.
Okay, so we have four yeses. And
We're doing some calculations.
oh, you
Go
want-
ahead and say it.
okay,
and I'll-
so we have
okay,
nine.
Well,
I have 4
no.
to 9 and an abstention. Is that
That's
what you
correct.
have? Thank you.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
So the motion fails.
Okay, so the motion fails, and the, I think we need a motion to adopt it, is how I read this. So does anybody wish to make a motion to adopt the recommended
Staff
action? Staff recommendation.
I'll make that motion.
So, okay, do I have a second?
One of us.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go with the roll call vote again. Thank you.
District 1, alternate Gonzalez.
Abstain.
District 2, alternate Gray.
Yes.
District 3, alternate Ramos.
Yes.
District 4, alternate Pawnee.
Yes.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Yes.
City of Delray Oaks.
Yes.
City of Gonzalez.
Yes.
City of Greenfield.
Yes.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Yes.
City of Sand City.
Yes.
City of Seaside.
Yes.
City of Soledad.
Yes.
Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. And I would, again.
Mr. Chair, just one, if I could real quick, I want to pick up on something Shane said to start the meeting when you introduced you. And you just saw an example of a really good board. That people respectfully tried to wrestle with a problem, and people of goodwill often disagree, but then they come together. So I think your comments at the beginning were
I'll be
very-
elaborating on that afterwards. Well said, sir. Hard problems like these.
And I think she has 11 o'clock stop too.
Yes,
So-
sir. Just in time.
But there we go.
But I did want to thank Partnership for Children. I think this is a good thing that you surfaced, and we'll be discussing this more in length and see how we can make this better for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
it's 3 years till the next cycle, so it's not like next year's budget, so we'll just look to get in the next time.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you
time
for
and
your
consideration.
consideration. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it a lot.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. This is the North Monterey County vulnerability assessment. Alyssa? Or should be online.
Hi, good morning, Chair, members of the board. I'm Alyssa Gucher, Associate Transportation Planner. Today I'll be talking to you about the North Monterey County Regional Transportation Vulnerability Assessment. Next slide. So we'll do a project overview, talk about our public outreach. I'll explain some of the findings and the result of the tools that were developed as part of the project, the applications of those tools, and next steps. So the Regional Transportation Vulnerability Assessment, or RTVA, identified the vulnerable transportation infrastructure to climate hazards such as sea level rise, coastal flooding, erosion, heat, and more. We assessed impacts to low income and disadvantaged communities and sensitive habitats. We created a project prioritization list and recommended adaptation strategies for the projects on that list. And those were developed with a technical advisory committee, or TAC, of focus groups from local organizations and community members, as well as outreach to the public. Next slide. The intended project outcomes were to help TAMC understand the hazards of interest for every project that we have, support future climate resiliency projects, and benefit other agencies and asset owners in the North Monterey County area. Our project team was made up of TAMC, our consultant team, Pathways, Climate Institute, Cambridge Systematics, and ESA. The technical advisory committee members included County of Monterey, which include Public Works and Planning, AMBAG, MST, Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission, Caltrans District 5, the Elkhorn Slough Foundation, Pajaro Sunny Mesa Community Services District, and the Moss Landing Harbor District. Our focus group included community-based organizations like Regeneración Pajaro Valley and the Climate Action Board, as well as the Elkhorn Slough Foundation nonprofit arm, and other community-based organizations in the area. So thanks. The study area included, shown on the map, included communities like Moss Landing, Elkhorn, Pajaro, Castroville, Las Lomas, and Aromas. We partially chose this. Oh, sorry. Can you go back? Just a note also on this study area, we concurrently had the North Monterey County Safe Routes to Schools plan going as we developed this, so we were able to coordinate with that project in terms of some of the outreach and data that was found in that project. Next slide. The process that we engaged in included first assessing climate hazard exposure, identifying the transportation vulnerabilities in the project area, developing a framework for prioritization, and engaging with local communities throughout that process. Our approach included the multi-hazard assessment using the best available climate science and hazard data. Some of the sources on this slide include the climate change CIMIP 6, the climate plan, national fifth climate assessment, and both the state climate assessment. This project was funded by a sustainable transportation planning grant from Caltrans. I'll go more into our public outreach and approach and results. So we looked at the Caltrans planning effort and framework for vulnerability to develop this project's framework. We looked at the vulnerability of assets and roads to inform our prioritization process, and then received additional community input to create a recommended prioritization list. Our outreach included in-person events at farmers markets. We collaborated with CSU Monterey-based students that helped give out surveys and flyers. We held 4 focus group meetings with the aforementioned community groups, held presentations to local organizations, and distributed a online and paper survey. We also held a community open house. Next. Which was held at the Castroville Public Library. This, we had roughly 30 attendees. We had a science fair type layout with interactive stations that covered information on overall project goals, climate hazards and stressors, vulnerable areas, and prioritization metrics. Some of the findings from the open house, as well as other outreach efforts, included a lot of information about flooding along roads, include like Blackie, Blanco, Dolan Road, Elkhorn Road. We were hearing a lot about community members unable to access destinations or being stranded during flood events, students unable to attend school due to flooded roadways, as well as MST bus drivers not being able to pass in certain conditions, and that residents relied on communication with family and friends in other areas to learn about the road conditions. These are some of the images from our open house. So we had an interactive board where people placed stickers to help us understand what was most important to them. These boards were all displayed in Spanish and English, and we had staff there who were bilingual, so we were able to communicate with a lot of the community members who were more comfortable speaking about the issues in Spanish. As I said, some of the findings, the specific findings from the boards, we were able to validate the vulnerable areas that were found in the data analysis. We validated some of the proposed prioritization metrics and obtained some information on additional roads of interest and concern, and received some recommendations for future outreach, like connecting with local churches or having a phone tree to provide more information to community members.
Right.
So the results from some of the data included a hazard viewer. So this included all the raw information at first and was distilled into this interactive GIS mapping tool. This is not yet public. It will be published with the final version of the assessment, but it really helps to build resilience planning by understanding what's at stake. Agencies can consult this viewer to see what's important in an area roadway, and this is how you build more resilience, effectively knowing what hazards there are to plan for. Caltrans is actively doing this at the state level, working to embed climate hazard data in projects, and we can also use this information to assist with grant applications and make projects stronger. So a prioritization framework can help identify where hazard mitigation and multi-benefit projects could both best serve North Monterey's transportation and mobility needs, reduce community impact, support community identified needs, and balance both transportation and community goals. So this is actually animated, so you can just keep clicking. But some of these metrics that were used included local roadways, the metrics shown on the board were all used in tandem. So we had some transportation related metrics as well as community related metrics. And some of the findings from this analysis shows that local roadways dominated the list of most vulnerable roads. Local roadways were mentioned most by the community. And we're still finalizing. Oh, yeah. The participation framework tool will also, there's another tool that we'll show next, but that will be an interactive tool that can be used in many of the similar ways that I mentioned the hazard viewer could be used. So here we have a screenshot of the online dashboard. So as you can see, there's a list of top 20 priority roads. You can explore roadway vulnerability to things like high tide and coastal flooding, groundwater rise, riverine and inland flooding. And you can also select different transportation and community related metrics to identify specific roadways for hazard mitigation and climate adaptation projects that would meet our transportation and community related goals. So here we have a table from our draft assessment, and that shows with combining transportation and community related metrics, you get different lists than if you just take transportation or community. So it's really plug and play. You can take out different metrics and see for your purposes what roads are most vulnerable. So to look ahead, we aim to apply these findings to current and future projects, prioritize based on risk and funding opportunities, collaborate with local agencies and CBOs, community-based organizations to help them use this tool for their work as well. So really, we want to spend more time developing projects to address vulnerabilities, looking towards, as I mentioned, the North Monterey County Safe Roads to Schools plan that is in the final stages. So the potential projects that could come out of that could be used. This tool could be used in conjunction with that to help get funding for implementation projects. And here we have board action just to receive this presentation. The public draft plan, as I mentioned, it's now open for public review and will be through June 16th. And the final plan will be brought to the board for adoption at the June 24th TAMC board meeting.
Thank you, Alyssa. Any comments or questions from the board?
I just have a comment.
Yes.
Thank you, Alyssa. That was really helpful. There was one comment that a resident brought to us, and I think I sent it over, so you may already have this, but on page 27 in section 2 of the assessment, it refers to some of the unincorporated areas as cities, and I just wanted to make sure that could get looked at. And then also if we could add in the Aromas Tri-County Fire District as well as one of the fire departments, that would be great. That's both on page 27, section 2.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll make note of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you to Alyssa and her team, whoever helped you do the work so far. Good luck in the future. And that Elkhorn Road came out on top seems logical. It's such a horrible road to walk or bike, and it's not that great to drive. So thank you for your good work.
Thank you. And Alyssa, all of this will be fed into the RTP, right? Like the findings technically, that's a logical next step.
Yes, RTP and TAMC also has our ATP, Active Transportation Plan update, that's just getting started. So this work will also be incorporated into that effort.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. I'll open up to public comment. Anybody from the room? If not, anybody online? Seeing none, this is just to receive results. So thank you, Alyssa. We'll move on.
Thank you.
To the grand finale of the regular session, I guess. Surprise, surprise, it's the budget. So Mira and Mike.
Yes, good morning. Mike Zeller, I'm TAMC's Director of Programming and Project Delivery. So I'll be starting off the presentation on our fiscal year 26-27 budget and overall work program. I'll be coordinating this presentation with Mira Park, our finance officer. Just to give a brief overview of what we'll be discussing today. The overall work program is, we have three different components that we'll be talking about. It'll be the overall work program, the budget, and the integrated funding strategy. And those three components work together to describe the agency's overall activities. The overall work program is a document that outlines all of the tasks and deliverables that the staff will be working on over the upcoming fiscal year. And it sets the basis for the annual budget. So it's the description of the activities that will take place. The budget itself is like a typical budget. It's the business plan, the roadmap for the agency. It's where we're putting our limited resources, what the board is prioritizing for the agency's priorities and what we'll be working on over the next year and how we're going to fund that. We also do include not just the initial fiscal year, but we do a 2-year look ahead to see trends and what we're expecting to have come up so we can be ready for that. And it translates all of the plans from the OWP into the actual dollars that we'll be spending. It identifies all the different revenue sources. And then finally, the integrated funding strategy. This is a snapshot of all of our regional projects and programs. So the State Route 68, like we heard earlier, the State Route 156 Castroville Boulevard project are long-term projects that we work on over multiple years. These are typically reflected in the integrated funding strategy because funding from one year to the next can be variable. Project timelines can shift and funding timelines can shift. So rather than showing those numbers in the budget, they can artificially change the numbers in the budget rather than showing them here, where it's more reflective of what we expect to happen over a 5-year time period. And it also sets out what our expectations are for going after different grant programs and how we look to align the different funding sources towards the regional programs. So having said that, we presented the draft budget and overall work program and integrated funding strategy to the board in February, as well as the executive committee. There have been no major changes to the overall work program since that time. We did share the draft OWP with Caltrans, and they relayed some comments back to us that have been incorporated, just minor updates and modifications, no major program or project changes. I'm happy to go through the slides highlighting the work that we have in the OWP, but considering there's no new information and the timing on the board, happy to skip these if that's your desire.
Anybody wish to view the slides in detail? I guess we can skip.
Okay. And so with that, I'll skip ahead to the budget section and I'll hand this off to Mira. And if there are any questions that come up about the highlights or anything, please let me know. I'm going to address this.
Good morning, Chair, Directors, and members of the public. I'm Mira Park, the Finance Officer here at TAMC, and I'm here to present this upcoming fiscal year's budget and the estimate for the following 2 years. So just as a quick recap, as Mike Zeller mentioned, our draft budget and the OWP was presented in February. And today we're bringing it back with some minor changes since that time. As you know, as Mike mentioned, the budget reflects board priorities and is a roadmap and a spending plan to accomplish our work. Let's see. TAMC is responsible for administering 6 fiduciary funds. This means we hold and manage money on behalf of other agencies and programs. These funds are not available for our general operations, but they are tracked separately and reported according to legal and program guidelines. Our funding sources are made up of federal, state, local, and reserve monies. We have a small amount of money in federal dollars, a larger amount of money coming from state programs and local monies from Measure X, regional development impact fees, rail leases, and interest. Our budget is composed of two major buckets. The first bucket is operating, and that is made up of staff salaries, benefits, capital outlays, materials and services such as computers, rents, office supplies. So it's all the things that keeps our lights on and our staff paid. The second budget is our bucket is a direct program budget, and that is composed of contracts and outside consultants and expenses for materials specific to work programs. A few things to highlight in this budget. We have a 16% growth in our overall planning funds. 91% of our planner staff time is charged directly to work programs and projects, and the balance is included as overhead within our indirect cost allocation plan. This budget reflects a 3-year projection, and the revenues that we estimate are conservative while our expenditures are forecasted as accurately as possible based on the information we have today. Let's see. A few assumptions. The first is related to staffing. Back in February, the board approved the addition of 1 full-time planner staff. So in this budget, we will see an increase in headcount. So we have 1 full-time planner staff added from previous year's budget. And we also included a 3% cost of living allowance that's based on several factors, including CPI and local agency data. The next item in our assumption is our ERP software. ERP is short for Enterprise Resource Planning, and it's basically a financial management platform. We recently completed our needs assessment and demoed several different platforms, and it's been a long, involved process with our consultants to make sure the expense that we're putting into our next platform really meets our needs. So based on the recommendation from our consultant, we need to increase our implementation budget from $100,000 to $300,000. So that's a one-time implementation cost. And then finally, as you know, we are currently in an old office space that's going to expire in its lease next year. So we've been looking for a new office space. So we're budgeting 1.5 million to help us get ready for that move. Our revenue assumptions increases based on several different state and funding for our major programs, Vision Zero, Elkhorn Slough Climate Resiliency, various state routes to school projects for TAG and rail. We also have a decrease in funding on some of our state projects because they taper off in activities. We also expect ongoing revenue to administer several state programs, such as the Freeway Service Patrol. And we also manage the Monterey branch line rail lease, Measure X, regional development impact fees. Back in February meeting, our unassigned fund balance was at 11.5 million. But after assigning 2.6 of that money based on our 6-month operating reserve policy, our unassigned fund balance is approximately 8.9 million. So from that 8.9 million, we are anticipating and budgeting the 1.5 for our new office and 300,000 for the ERP software. If we look at our revenue by operating and direct for this upcoming fiscal year, we have a 16% increase in our operating. And this is mainly due to these programs for TAG, rail, Safe Routes to School, ATP. And our direct program cost increases by 10% compared to last year for the same reason. So here's a more detailed look at our operating revenue. We have federal money coming in to support our Vision Zero program. And you can see the main driver of the increase in operating revenue is state funding related to rail and those other projects that I mentioned. We also have interest income for this fiscal year that will contribute a little bit to our reserves. So for our capital expense, last year we paid down our unfunded pension liability to the tune of 1.5 million, which is a great accomplishment. And we replaced the fleet vehicle, one of two. So this year we anticipate a cost of 1.5 million for our new office space. So if we look at the 3-year budget horizon, you can see the 6% increase for this coming fiscal year due to those one-time expenses, such as the implementation of the ERP software, 1.5 million for the office space. And then the other 2 years following, there's a slight increase based on some multi-year contracts that we have with escalation built in, and also taking into account COLA, cost of living allowance. So on the direct program side, we have a slight increase in state and federal funding, mostly again, due to those increase in rail and other projects. See. And that concludes the OWP and budget presentation. So the recommended action for the board today is to approve resolution 26-6 to adopt fiscal year 26-27 budget and the estimated 2 years out, along with the overall work program for this fiscal year coming up, and also approve the 2026 integrated funding strategy. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mira. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, any comments online? I did not see any hands raised. Okay, we'll close public comment. And this room. Any comments from the room? Public? Okay, thank you. Thanks. Okay, so looks like we need to, there's a recommended action. Does anybody wish to make a motion?
Motion. Second, Chair.
All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
District 1, alternate Gonzalez.
Aye.
District 2, alternate Gray.
Yes.
District 3, alternate Ramos.
Yes.
District 4, alternate Pani.
Yes.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Yes.
City of Delray Oaks.
Yes.
City of Gonzalez.
Yes.
City of Greenfield.
Yes.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Yes.
City of Sand City.
Yes.
City of Seaside.
Yes.
City of Soledad.
Yes.
Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to section 8, transportation provider updates. Caltrans is first.
Yeah. Good morning, Brandy Ryder here, District Director for Planning and Modal Programs for Caltrans District 5. We just have just one real announcement. The Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program, our grant guide is currently out for review. So opportunity for our partner agencies to take a look at the grant guide and provide comments. Those comments are scheduled to be this month I feel like I'm in June already, but in the month of June. And so that is coming on board, and then we'll have a call for applications is tentatively planned for August. We still are waiting to hear on the awardees for this coming fiscal year. Should be any day, we're hoping, but as soon as those grant awards come out, we'll let folks know, and then we'll also have follow-up for any recipients that did not receive a grant. So with that, I don't have any other announcements today, but if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Sure. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, let's move on to the next airport. Anybody from the Monterey Peninsula Airport here or online? I don't see any. Okay, we'll move on to MST. Carl?
Thank you, Chair. A few announcements. We had service adjustments went into effect on May 23rd, including the return of the MST trolley between downtown Monterey and Cannery Row. We have a new bus stop in Pacific Grove that went into effect at Sinex and Crocker Avenue. We've added additional service on the line 23 King City to Salinas due to significant overcrowding issues. And we want to keep our passengers seated. As those of you who took our trip with Secretary Omashakin and Caltrans Director Dina Al-Tiswani, we once again had an experience with elected officials and a near unpleasant occurrence with a vehicle coming through that south of Salinas interchange. We also have restored service back to Bradley on the line 84. That was discontinued a couple of years ago after the roads washed out in that area, making it unsafe for MST buses to travel. And that has been repaired by the county. So thanks, good there. Also, just wanted to announce that on last Wednesday, I was in Salt Lake City on behalf of MST and our hardworking staff to receive an award from the American Public Transportation Association. MST was awarded nationwide, all categories, big, small, and everything in between. The safest, cleanest, and most efficient public transit operator in the country. So we're happy to receive that award on behalf of the hardworking people at MST. That concludes my report. Also, just really quickly, if you haven't done so, please contact your local delegation or the Air Resources Board about the pending cuts to greenhouse gas relief funds. There is a hearing tomorrow. Please let your voice be heard. Those are funds that fund MST projects and TAMC projects alike. And as well as affordable housing projects in your communities. So please let your voice be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Fantastic news on the award. Congratulations to everyone. Any comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to MBARD. I see David.
Hi, good morning. We have a few programs in process right now. We've got our motor vehicle emission reduction grant application period is open right now, which offers government agencies up to $200,000 towards the development of electric vehicle infrastructure, bicycle infrastructure, and the replacement of old diesel, medium or heavy duty electric or duty trucks such as buses, refuse haulers, street sweepers, in replacement for electric models. So that application is open, and I'd encourage you to talk to your public works departments and other departments in your agencies to apply for this program. Electric Vehicle Incentive Program, which offers incentives to purchase light-duty electric vehicles for the general public, is launching on July 1st. So we'll be offering up to $2,000 for the purchase of an electric vehicle, and then an additional $500 for low-income applicants. And our utility terrain vehicle replacement program is currently underway. It's been very popular so far. These are these small gasoline or diesel powered golf cart type vehicles that you'll see at nurseries or farms and vineyards. We're offering up to $13,500 to replace the old models with zero emission electric vehicles. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Any questions for David? Okay, seeing none, we'll close out section number 8 and move on to 9. Reports on meetings attended by board members at Transportation Agency expenses. Were there any?
They're not here to report for themselves, but I just wanted to note that Kate Daniels and Mike Labar were able to attend the California Rail Passenger Summit since this last meeting. And Dave Potter, as TAMC's representative to the Coast Rail Coordinating Council, attended their meeting in
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close out 9.2 and item number 10. It's your report.
Thank you. I don't normally have slides, but I did want to share a few this time. Yannika's pulling it up. And start up with a few announcements that, on your dais, there's a few flyers. One is for the sidewalk art voting in King City. And this vote is open to everyone in Monterey County, so feel free to check it out and engage. And then the second one is for Monterey County Active Transportation Plan, where we're kicking off this effort to update our countywide plan for bicycle and pedestrian facilities. And there are a few meetings scheduled, one in Greenfield, which is concurrent with with TAMC's Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee meeting that will be held there. And then the second one in June in Salinas. So there's more information in a QR code for the plan update on the flyer. And then Carl mentioned that we were able to give a tour to CalSTA, California State Transportation Agency, Secretary Tokso Moshakin, and the new Caltrans director, Dina El-Tawanzi, this past month. And I was able to, I had a chance to talk with Tokes and he was interested in a tour. So we pulled together this tour very quickly with support from MST, and that they provided a bus, a clean electric bus for us to go around and visit. Next slide. We had about 3 hours. We started it at the train station and talked about our rail program, went over to East Salinas and talked about our Safe Route to School program and some of MST's plans for BRT through this East Salinas. Went along the US 101 corridor to Chular and then back along 68, stopping in Seaside at the 218 gateway for the Monterey Bay project, and then along by the surf project and back to the Salinas station, be able to show them the new Imaging Parkway project that's been completed. So just a few slides from the tour. You can just kind of scroll through them slowly. Secretary Omoshakin seen some of the murals that were done through the Clean California program in Salinas. Talking to the folks on the bus, Tokso Moshakin sharing with his thoughts and ideas. Caltrans Director El-Tawanzi speaking.
Who's the guy on the right?
That handsome guy there? Yeah. Stopping in Chular, seeing just happened to focus right next to the mural for the tragedy that happened with the Barreras back in 1964, I think. But really stopping and experiencing how traffic impacts the Chular community, trucks and vehicles making U-turns on the existing interchange, impacting the community, and getting the feel for it just from the side there. Moving on, our project manager for Caltrans for the 101 South Salinas, Meg Henry, talking about the project. Along with next we have Mike. Mike talked about the funding for our various projects. Then Doug talked about the Highway 68 corridor. And then we got off in Seaside where we shared the Gateway for Monterey Bay project, showing how that intersection of 218 and Del Monte is a critical place for bicyclists and pedestrians to be able to get across through heavy traffic, and how it's interconnected with what Sand City wants to do with bike path through TAMC's corridor that starts at that intersection and meets up at Playa with the Surfs Project's bike path, and connecting on the other leg of this. You can go one more. Other leg going into Laguna Grande Park and over and facilitating the connection to our Fortag project that's being under construction at Fremont and 218. So able to share that with the secretary and Caltrans director. This may be the one and only time we get them to come in person to visit. So we were really fortunate to be able to get on their schedule and share our problems with them. And I think it is already bearing fruit. We've gotten some good feedback afterwards. So I'm really excited that we had the opportunity and partnership with MST to make it happen. And that concludes my executive director's report.
Thank you, Todd. And I would like to at least share that it was very well organized. Thank you to you and MST and all our partners for making this happen and for making sure that we were not stuck on 68 while all this was going on. So thank you.
And yeah, I could add, I made the contact to start it, but TAMC staff put this on. Mike Zeller did a lot to get this organized while I went on vacation for a couple weeks. So I just wanted to note it was a team effort on all of this. And the rest of the team had the snacks and everything, water and all the stuff that we need to have a good tour. So thank you to everyone.
Appreciate that. Any questions? If not,
Can I just make I want to thank Todd and his team for coordinating this and being open and making it happen. Those, the secretary and the director, they have to be in big cities. They have to be in big counties. They don't have to stop here. Right. And so we appreciate what you guys did.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Item number 11, announcements or comments from TAMC members on matters that they wish to put on future transportation agendas. Anybody? I just want to mention that, noting what we heard earlier, I do want to at least consider having an agenda item, possibly if not in the near term, at least the long-term future for related to funding for Measure X items to any nonprofit agencies that we heard earlier. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, can I just, just to echo what you said, I know that obviously we won't go through the cycle anytime soon, but I think given the discussion and given what we heard, I think it's important to make sure that we look at those policies sooner than later and not kick it down the road till next year. I think given the discussion and how important it is in terms of the services that we provide and the services that are needed in terms of transportation now, I think it's important that we take a look at it in the near future. So thank you for bringing that up.
Sure, absolutely. Yes. So thank you. Anything else? Okay. All right. So we do have a closed session today. So before we get into the closed session, which is the real estate negotiations, confer with real property negotiators concerning the disposition of agency-owned property. Any public comment on the closed session? Yes.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, I guess it is. Chair, board, executive director and staff. I'm Viva Knogard. I'm the city manager for the city of Sand City. And I'm here to talk to you about your closed session item. This is a map of the multi-use trail that you had referenced in the executive director's report. And it is basically the Sand City Trail Project is closing the 1 mile gap in an 18-mile trail system that will get people on a Class A bike trail, Castroville all the way down to PG. They can park in Sand City and get their kids and their bikes out of the car and bicycle, and they can park in Sand City and get on the MST bus that the surf bus that goes from Marina, as you know, to Sand City. It has a major bus terminal in Sand City up here. And they put parking in on the Marina side, but not on the Sand City side. All this to say, as we are working through this, we came to the TAMC board about 2 years ago. Sand City has been working extremely hard at trying to make this trail segment happen. We've been working with TAMC staff. We've got grant funding from AMBAG, grant funding from MBARD, a lot of support. One of the items that is that we're working on right now is a use agreement that you're going to talk about in closed session. And the trail project that we have has parking in it. Now that parking is trailside parking, so people can get out of their cars and use the trail. It's also so they can access the MST bus station. I'm speaking really fast because I am not used to having only 2 minutes. And also so that they can access all the cultural activities that we do. Sand City's known for West End Festival, music festivals, a lot of free regional cultural events. Your land use policies have a requirement that you charge fair market value for use of TAMC land that's not transportation related, but it allows you, the board, to waive that fair market value requirement. Since our project is a trail, green space, and 3 parking areas, we would not be able to make this work if we have to pay TAMC fair market value for that property. So we want you to consider we're a public agency. We're doing this as a regional benefit, and we're different than handrail car drivers and car dealerships that lease it. And I know my time is up, but with me is Planning Manager Nick McElroy from Sand City. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vivica. I'm Nick McElroy. I'm the planning manager for Sand City. I just wanted to echo Vivica's comments and just really highlight a couple more things. We're really excited to be working with TAMC staff on multiple levels, including the ATV grant. And we think that not only the trail is important, but also that we use the whole right of way. There are some areas where there's still going to be existing leases that are being maintained, but being able to have flexibility in how we design the trail is really important for Sand City to make sure that we have all the components that we're looking for. That's a greenbelt, landscaping, parklets with exercise equipment. Sand City is a really, really small city. And so this project might be smaller for a bigger city, but for us, it's really monumental. And so we're putting a lot of energy into it. And yeah, the parking will be before you as well as the rest of the use agreement. And I just wanted to add that not everyone feels safe riding a bicycle or walking to get to the trail right now. And so if you have safe parking with ADA spaces and a really accessible way to get to the trail and get out of your cars, it's a great place for Sand City. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, no. Anybody else from the room? If not, let's go online. I see Michael Groves. If you can hear us, you have the floor. Michael Groves, you need to unmute yourself.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's Michael Groves, president of EMC Planning Group, and I also represent Sand City and want to talk about what a great thing this trail is for the community and the region. And the only point I wanted to add is that City of Sand City is committed to maintaining the trail, and typically the fees that are charged from TAMC are used to maintain that section of the right-of-way corridor. And since Sand City's committed to maintaining the trail, I think waiving the fees would be the appropriate action by the board. So that's what we would request that you look at both in closed session and when it comes back in open session. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else online? Seeing no hands, we'll close public comment on this matter and we'll move to closed session. Yes.
Through the chair, at this time, I'm going to excuse myself since this is closed session and deals with Sand City.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And for members of the public, we are going to adjourn out of closed session, so no need to hang around.
Can we have like we'll take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Is that right?
I got something to ask you too, Sheriff.
Guys, come back. Let me just tell everybody. Did an excellent job.
Thank you.